That's right, David. This is our last video of 2024. How
Yeah,
about
no,
that?
again, like the recording went on and a little prematurely as I'm speaking behind the scenes, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden I gotta zip it
Hey,
up.
man, you don't
But
mess with Jessica, man. Zoom
but
Jessica.
just
She's
but
crazy.
but just on that, I just clarify this because somebody is gonna say, I just want to clarify. This is the last time we're recording an episode in 2024 together, Joe and I. We understand this is coming out sometime in January of
Yeah,
2025,
that's
but this
true.
is the last time Joe and I will be on Zoom recording this in 2024. So it's been a great 2024, Joe, doing
It's
this
been a
with you.
great 2024, and we just crossed our 200th episode. So, with that being
This is
said,
200. This
this
is
is
200.
200. Welcome to CFP Talks, everybody. My name is Joe Nissum, and with me, as always, is the unparalleled Mr. David Fuchs.
What's going on? Happy to be here. I can't believe that this is 200 actually. That I
200
you know,
episodes.
I knew it because, when we do the show notes and everything and we have our schedule, like I obviously see that in the column where it says not episode number, this was number 200, but I didn't really put it together that when you hit record, this was actually the 200.
Yeah.
So
I'm
that's
pretty
actually pretty
I'm
nuts.
pretty sure that makes us married. Now we do
Yeah.
200 episodes together. I'm pretty sure we're married now.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, like we're at 200, obviously, so we're not necessarily at the year yet. But when if the episode is number 365, it's gonna be like, well, you guys technically recorded episodes that take up an entire year.
We could
Like that
release an episode every day and have a
every
year's
day.
worth.
Right. Right
Damn.
now we're at about a little over 6 months. So,
Damn.
or almost 7 months actually at 200
Yeah.
days. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's good to be here, and I'm happy to be on with you.
And I want to pick up where we left off in our last episode. You said something really interesting. We actually kind of scrapped our notes that we were going to talk about because I
Mhm.
think this is a really important thing. And for if you didn't listen to the last episode, here's what David said. He said, "When I take an exam, it's cool to get the right answer, but like my curiosity gets piqued too much that I want to know why, and
Mhm.
I want to be able to answer it right again. And there's a certain level of kind of curiosity. Maybe it's a little bit of competitiveness. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe it's a little bit of know-how. And it kind of sparked something in my head because, I run, pretty small cohorts. I'm not a Dalton or a Denko or anybody who does that. So my groups are much smaller. So it's much more intimate. And I get to know a lot of people a lot more. And every cohort is always a bit different. And there are cohorts who are really into the exam. They really want to get to know the material. They really want to do well. They really want to pass, and they really want to pass on the first try. Now, in everybody says that they want to pass on the first try.
Mhm.
Very few people are willing to put in that commitment, and we have some groups that are amazing, and we have some groups that are more on the other side. And it kind of sparked something in my head because it really, if I'm going to go and I'm going to say there's an X factor to taking this exam, I'm just going to say that's pretty close to the X factor of taking this exam. Is that when somebody gets something wrong or is not understanding a concept, taking the time and effort to figure out why you got it wrong or to learn it the right way is as close to an S factor that I can think of for this exam because that want, that desire to learn the material and actually know it versus I'm just doing this so I can, if the passing grade is 70, I want to get a 70.1.
It's not just that though. It's not just like, oh, I want to learn this enough where I'm just gonna pass it. It like that's not my only qualm with it. It's not just like, oh, you just want to learn this, you just want to learn it this way, so you could just pass the exam and then move on with your life and never think about this stuff again and get the letters and the designations. That's not my only qualm with it. My other qualm with it would be also that just because you learn it that way, that doesn't necessarily mean you're even going to pass doing it that way. Because, like we always say, the exam can ask the questions or the concepts in a multitude of ways. And if you don't truly understand the material, then you can easily get slapped around on
Easily.
this exam and any other, and it's not just on this exam, it's on any other exam. So like when I had mentor, managers and peers that were like, yeah, just they're like, just get through it. Like just know that this is the answer to this concept, and that's it. That's all you need to know. Just pass it. It's like, all right, well, like what if they like ask it in a different way? Or what if it's
Mm.
like presented to me in an alternative way? Like, what am I supposed to do then? So I hated when people used to say that to me. I really, really did. I used to hate when people say that to me because I was like, well, that doesn't really work for me. And I understand,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I understand there's people that are like, just go in, study, get the designation, and then boom, like you're off to the races, which is great. Like everybody does it their own way. But I was always like, well, that's not going to necessarily work for me because there's a chance that I do it that way and I still don't pass.
Yep. I agree. And it's one of the attitudes in finance that I dislike, right? And there is that attitude around a lot of finance offices, especially broker dealers, especially as I got hired into a broker dealer kind of at the end of the cold calling era, where they would hire, you know, Smith Barney would hire a class, the Northeast. I was part of the Northeast region, and in our region, people were coming from anywhere from DC to Maine, and our hiring class I think was like 140 people, and 2 years later we were down to like 21. Right, so the class would just dissipate very, very quickly. And when you would go back to your office, everybody had this like anxious, kind of crappy way of trying to do things. Just get it done. Series 7, just get it done. Well, I'm like, no, I might need to know this. Because if a customer asks me about a wash sale rule and I just memorized it and then they actually ask me about it, I'm screwed and I look like an idiot. And if I want to actually grow a career in this business, then that's not going to be I'm not setting a good precedent for just like, let me get through it now and then I'll worry about it later. I'd rather not do that because if you're trying to be efficient, that's not efficient. It's not effective. It's kind of just sloppy. It's a very sloppy mentality and one that I don't particularly like because just because you're studying doesn't mean you're going to get to know the material right away. And oftentimes, if you take the longer way, you're going to get the better and more sustainable result.
Yeah, and it's not just like, and I agree with you, obviously, and I think that's more applicable to the CFP in regards to, if I want to know this for my career, like that, of course, like that's applicable to the CFP to a whole nother extent. But I also, again, like I'm gonna go back to this. Excuse me, I'm gonna go back to this. It's not just about learning it for your career. It's also about learning it to pass the exam. Because again, just because they're like, just know that this means this. Okay, well, again, it may not be asked that way. It may be presented a different way. So like that doesn't mean you're even going to necessarily pass the exam.
Correct.
So yes, yours is more of a long-term thing.
Right.
Like don't you want to learn this stuff so you can talk about estate planning and tax planning and insurance planning with your clients, like, or else why you getting the designation? But I also think that it's also to do with actually passing the exam.
You're right.
I don't think just learning concept and knowing like this, draw a line, boom,
Right.
equals that.
Yeah.
That is a terrible way
Right.
to.
There's a double thing going on, which is if you know the material, it's going to make it easier to pass the exam. But if you know the material, it's actually going to be good for you long term. So,
Totally.
there's, when I think about this and, people are like, I don't want to spend that kind of money on an exam. And you think about the tens of thousands of dollars that it potentially has for you in store after the fact. Like a lot of people get the CFP and then they apply for a job where their salary goes up 20K. Okay, well, if your salary just went up 20K and you intend on working for the next 20 years, if you never get another pay raise, that's 400 grand right there that the CFP just gave you.
Hmm.
All right. If the CFP gives you the knowledge to get a $1 million client once a year for the rest of
Hmm.
your career, that's probably a good amount of earnings for the rest of your career. And I get it. I understand that on the CFP. Well, Joe, look, I'm not going to be able to do that with every single topic. I'm not asking you to.
Right.
We're not under the impression that you're sitting there and studying for the CFP exclusively. What we're saying with is that for a majority of the stuff that you're learning on the exam, if you're going in with the attitude that I'm just learning this to pass the exam, then it's a double-edged sword that if it doesn't get tested exactly in the way that you learned it, you're screwed.
You're screwed.
And
Exactly. You're
and if
screwed.
the CFP is not stupid and they are turning this more into a concept driven, relationship driven, problem solving driven type of exam, they're asking you to problem solve. Problem solving doesn't exist in one avenue. Problem
Hmm.
solving means that when we push against the box or outside of the box, what are you going to do? And if you've only learned it in one way because I memorized it to pass the exam, you're going to put yourself in a precarious position. On top of that, you're not necessarily setting yourself up. So ask yourself while you're taking this, and hopefully that you should have some curiosity. You should want to know what it is. And if you find yourself going, well, no way, I don't have enough time, then maybe take a later exam. Because what's the point of trying to rush through everything? Take an exam in 2 or 3 months that you have a 50-50 shot at best of passing. For what? Who are you
Hmm.
helping? Because you're not helping your clients. So if you're sitting there saying you're doing it for your clients, you're not. You're doing it for the letters after your own name, but you're not necessarily helping yourself either. So, if you're in that position where you don't have enough time to really learn concepts, you're probably going too fast. And I get it. The best way to take the CFP for 99% of us is in the route that gets me there the fastest. I get it. We're busy. We have families and children, and CFP is a priority, but it's never going to supersede going to work or taking care of my family. I get that. Give it the time and the respect that it deserves because you deserve to be able to use your CFP after the exam. And I think that's a good place to stop.
Hmm. Definitely.
David,
All right.
thank
It's
you
been a great. Yep.
for 200 phenomenal episodes. I mean, our first ones were long and crazy, and
Oh my God. I remember those
I think
hours.
we've evolved.
Yeah.
Incredible. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We hope that whether you're a new listener or you're somebody who's been listening to this podcast for a long time, we appreciate you. Thank you. Happy holidays, and we will see you guys in 2025. Have a great day, everybody.